Hey guys, Equinox, and it's going to be like a short little tank review video of how I feel about all the tanks I've played, which is everything but Prot Warrior. I just don't have a Prot Warrior, don't have a level, so I can't test it. This is just all from testing this weekend. This isn't going to be a ranking, this is just how I feel about them, pros and cons, stuff like that. So we'll start with Brew. Right now, they have pretty high damage. I'd say the highest damage out of any of the tanks. They have good utility with Dispelling. They have Sweep Rop, pretty good. Disease and Poison come up quite often, so I think that's pretty good. And they also take a little bit less upfront damage than most tanks, I'd say, right now. The weaknesses, our defensives are pretty weak. The only good defensive we have is Diffuse. Fort Brew is extremely weak, is in need of a buff. Nizao is in need of a massive buff or just a rework. And Dampen is also it's useful against extremely high level damage. Like to get like 40% DR, I think you need like a 28 tyrannical Nelf Slayer last boss, like some ridiculous amount of damage. Yeah. So you need a lot of damage for this to actually be useful. Yeah, so our defensives are just kind of weak. Our base tankiness with our base kit is very strong. Like we don't need really strong defensives to live, but it when you get to higher keys, you kind of notice not having good defensives. But we will have more stagger next season since we're going to be gaining about 40 plus eye levels. This is with no extra stagger, so this is no high tolerance. If I spec into double high tolerance, it'll go up to around 52%. And then you add in like Sophic Devotion plus Eye in the Storm, you gain a lot. So here 53%, 53.35, so yeah, you gain quite a bit. So yeah, we're gonna have a lot more stagger next season. It's gonna be pretty good. We're gonna be running Cheat Trinket at a high level, and then we'll be running a defensive trinket like Ferox or a damage trinket like Cataclysmic Signet Brand. And yeah, and we have two options for build. You can go the super tanky build, which is this, and then you can go the more tyrannical build, which is this damage heavy. The only dungeon I wouldn't run this setup in, this double passive setup, I think is both the mega dungeons. You need Diffuse Dampen in the mega dungeons. Maybe not Galakron's Fall, which is the first half, but definitely the second half with these four bosses. You really need active defensives, especially on the last boss. Active defensives are just really good. But overall, I like how Brew feels. Just we just need a little bit of buff to defensiveness. I think just Nizao would be suffice right now. Just a heavy buff to Nizao would be really good, or just completely rework how it works. And then the four set, I think it just needs completely changed at this point. It just or like a clarification on how they want it to work, or a buff because I just don't really know what it's supposed to do because it's like if you do this in an actual key on PTR, the shield that it gives, which is just prevents staggered damage or damage that would be staggered, it just explodes in like 0.5 seconds. So you press Celestial Brew and that thing goes away and still. Like it's very not good. Like it's yeah. I would rather it just prevent damage you've already staggered or the damage that is in your stagger pool. So yeah, that's pretty much the only issue I have is just our defensives need a little bit of a buff. Mostly Nizao and our fort base also needs touched. This just needs changed or buffed heavily. Breath of Fire or our two piece is very strong. Right now it's doing considerable amounts of overhealing. This is a Dawn of the Infinites, and that's a lot of damage. It's still doing 50% overhealing. This is after they removed its scaling with crit and verse. So yeah. So yeah, this is Brew's looking pretty good. Next, let's go up to DH. DH, I think, is my second favorite right now. Brew's obviously my favorite, very close to my heart. So, DH, right now it's 4-piece, does not work. Doesn't give CDR on the Sigil of Flame, so that's, keep that in mind when I talk about it. Its damage is not great, especially if you go like the full Sigil build of Sigil of Chains, but that might get changed with the 4-set being buffed and fixed, and I think they just need a bit of a flat damage buff as well. Now, the issue is if they do that, they have too much mob control right now. Which is very fun. They can pretty much solo like 10 casters at once for a good 30, 40 seconds by themselves if they chain all their CC, right? It is very insane if you mix that in with stuff like Boomy, Solar Beam, very good. Their tankiness is actually pretty insane. Like if you're doing big pulls, you are nigh immortal with how many souls you're getting, because of the you get extra souls from your Sigil of Flame, and you also get just your normal souls from Double Elysian Decrease, stuff like that. You are just spamming Spirit Bombs. It's very fun, very enjoyable. I think, yeah, I think that is probably going to be my main alt next patch. It's extremely fun, very fun to have agency. Agency is very important to me when it comes to fun. So I think DH is in a great spot. I think when they fix the 4-piece and maybe buff its damage a little bit, it might just be the best tank in the game because of how much control they have. But yeah, I think DH is in a great spot. We'll see what they change. I think it's really fun. I hope they do not gut the double sigil talent. I think it's probably the most fun thing they've done with VDH in a very long time since Legion. If you guys played in Legion, they had a very similar thing. When you pressed meta, it reset all your sigils, so you could get the same feeling in Legion, just not as accessible. All right, Bear Druid. So Bear Druid, again, their 4-set isn't really working properly. So basically, like, the 4-set shield isn't getting absorbed over your Ursoc shield. It takes, I don't think I've ever had a full absorb of the the Raging Sleeper shield or whatever, the Thorn shield. I don't think I've ever had a full absorb of that ever in a key. So yeah, it also is just absorbing too much. I think like if you do Maul like twice, it gives like a 1.6 mil shield or something. So it's super bugged, very hard to test right now. Hard to say. They offer Poison and Curse Dispel, which is very good this season. Curse shows up quite a bit, especially in keys like Waycrest. Poison shows up quite a bit. Their utility is obviously very good. Mark of the Wild, Roar, like Incap Roar, and then Typhoon or Vortex, very strong. Good. Soothe, I haven't really seen much of, actually. Yeah, so it's okay. It's like good in the Dragon area of the Mega Dungeon first half. But yeah, Bear seems okay. It's very hard to tell right now until their 4-set is fixed and works completely properly. So we'll see. Don't know on that one. This actually I actually can't tell. It's just not, it's like impossible to tell until they fix it. Paladin feels very good. The 4-set takes some getting used to play around. So the 4-set, if you guys don't know, is very consecration forward. You get 5 stacks of this buff. You get a stack every time you Judgment. When you hit 5, you can drop an empowered consecration, and it makes your abilities deal like not double damage, but deals more damage on a proc if you stand in your empowered consecrate. And that's basically what it is. It makes consecrate do way more damage. It makes you do more damage in your consecrate. Now, on top of that, Pally is obviously the really good utility. They have Poison Disease Dispel, which is extremely good. They have Freedom, which is really good and is very integral to the Lasher mobs in Everbloom. The Lasher mobs in Everbloom give you a stacking damage taken buff, which can be removed by Tiger's Lust, Freedom, Vengeful Retreat, anything that removes slows. So having a Pally in that dungeon or just a way to remove that stack, very helpful. Obviously, the interrupts, extremely strong. Right now, in Throne of Tides, I don't know how you play without a VDH or a Paladin. There's just way too many kicks. You're pretty much adding a couple key levels. Obviously, this will probably change. It'll probably be very heavily nerfed. So, obviously, don't take that as like it's going to be like that on live. Obviously, probably not. But yeah, Pally's really good. High damage. Pretty tanky. I would say it's definitely less tanky. It feels less tanky to me than Brew. But it's very strong. Interrupts are very strong. Utilities are very strong. So yeah, highly recommend Paladin. I think Paladin feels great right now. Yeah. Let's go on to DK. Now, DK is very dependent on their legendary. So we'll see. Maybe they'll be extremely strong. Maybe they'll be like mid-tier. But I think they'll be pretty viable. Death Grip's really good. Control Undead has some nice spots on a Tal'Dazar and Blackrook Hold. Death Grip's obviously always very good. They have, I think, a 12-second kick if you want, which is obviously really good. They're pretty tanky. The only issue is you need like some of the Mega Dungeon mobs kind of destroy Blood DK because in the, I think it's Galakron's Fall, the time area, it might be, it's Galakron's Fall, the time area. With the leeches, they all just do full magic damage autos, which your Blood Shield's completely useless, doesn't do anything. So it's very hard to deal with that area, but I think those might get reworked or just nerfed. So we'll see. But yeah, I think Blood DK overall is pretty good. Their set bonus has a disgusting uptime. It has like an 80% uptime in keys right now, and it's really strong. I think it's fun too. Also, they have a B-Res. Having a B-Res on your tank, same with Paladin and Bear, always really strong. It's always nice to have. Their damage is pretty good. Overall, their AoE damage is high or their single target damage is high in raid, and I know their AoE damage is pretty good right now. And I'm not even a great DK player, so if someone's even better at it, then it's going to be even stronger. So overall, the tank's feeling a good spot to me. There's no like standout tank like this is the X the best. Again, I haven't played Prot Warrior, I cannot say. So don't I have no idea about Prot Warrior, I can't answer that. But overall, I think Brew is my favorite VDH, very close to being my first favorite. It's extremely fun right now. Then Pally, then DK, then Bear. I'm just not a big Bear fan. It's pretty not fun for me. It's not a very active play style. But yeah, I think all the tanks are good right now. There's no like huge standout. There's no Bear Druid on live where it's like, oh, you have to play this or you're just useless. Yeah, overall, I think all the tanks have their strengths and weaknesses. And yeah, it's looking like a good PTR so far. Hopefully, they don't ruin that in a 0.5 patch like they've been doing, and they just keep the tank balance semi even and let like one tank be a little bit stronger. But I just hope they don't do any massive reworks that just ruin tank balancing. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Hope you learned something. Hope you have a fantastic day and see you on the next one.